It is said that there are 15 million Jews in the world, but considering that 1 in 6 of the world's population is circumcised, the real Jewish population is around 1.5 billion. 98% of Turkey's population is circumcised, which means that Turkey is actually a Jewish state. Don't ask what circumcision has to do with Judaism. According to the Jews, circumcision is a symbol of a covenant with God. I have explained these in detail. In the Jewish book, the Talmud, there is a statement that only Jews are human, others are animals. In other words, they exploit people outside their own race and keep them in a circle of fear with religious and political tales. Thanks to some sacred information that their ancestor Abraham stole from the pharaohs, they were able to communicate with the superior minds, gods, and humans, and they also gained access to other ancient powers. In this way, they became superior to the worlds. Afterwards, with this ancient knowledge, they harvested most of the people and strengthened their dominance by instilling fear in the rest that they would incur the wrath of God. They prevented any possible rebellion of the people against the system by creating earthquakes, floods and other disasters from time to time. Until Hitler came to power, almost all the great kingdoms, including the Ottomans, were governed by the patrons of these Jewish elites. Islam is actually surrendering to them and their system. They blamed Hitler for committing the Jewish genocide and presented themselves as the oppressed. Hitler said in his book My Struggle that the Jews actually were an evil, subversive and seditious society and therefore their roots had to be exterminated, and started the Jewish genocide. While doing this, he looked at whether they were circumcised or not. Hitler was partially successful. He cleared out most of the seditious Jews, but the rest were scattered all over the world, especially in America, Israel and Turkey, and continued the system of exploitation as it was. During the Ataturk era, the Islamic practices inherited from the Jewish Persians were largely abandoned, but after Inanu, these Jewish minorities began to organize, and during the Menderes era, as a result of the cooperation with the Nurkis Illuminati, Islam began to attack again. In other words, the famous political Islam. Nur means Illuminati, light, enlightenment. Muslim, Jews, Arabs who have chosen submission. If I am not mistaken, the equivalent among us is Muslim Kurds, but it cannot be said that they are pure Muslims. Jews do not surrender easily. Of course, neither do they. They are constantly engaged in both political and armed struggle with Turkey. According to the Jews, the east of Turkey is in the Promised Land and they are playing all their cards to seize it. For exactly 1 century. With the support of the evil trio, America, England, Israel, a coup movie is played on July 15, 2016 and Erdogan, who was previously a luminary, is authorized as the sole man. The evil trio destroys the lands they have been trying to take for a century by creating an artificial earthquake on February 6, 2023. Look, if this had not happened, I am clearly telling you that they would have even started the Third World War for this cause. Because the 100-year agreement has ended. I have told you before, there is no rule that wars must be fought with cannons and rifles. They can achieve their goals this way. Let me tell you what will happen in the coming years. The 3 million Arabs who were brought into the country will be settled in the regions vacated by the earthquake, and after a few decades, they will become a majority from a minority and turn Ataturk's Turkey into the Turkey of Jewish Arabs. Just as the previous Turkish states collapsed right after they became Arabized, rest assured that the same fate awaits us. The Nurkü Illuminati Isaksiller seem to have accomplished their mission. The plan has largely been successful. A fake hostility environment was created with FITO, CIA, America because they exposed their corruption. In this way, the impression could be given that they were siding with Russia. Syria, which seemed like a major obstacle for Israel and America, with Russian support, was divided and the clearing phase of the regions along Turkey's eastern border began. In order not to attract attention, this task was given to Turkish soldiers, using the PKK as an excuse. A plan within a plan, 2 birds with 1 stone. Why has the corridor cleaning, which has not been addressed for 80 years, been postponed until the eve of 2023? Or why today and not 5 or 10 years ago? Because once the eastern corridor is cleared, it will not be difficult for them to incorporate the eastern part of Turkey into the greater Israeli Empire. The Russians are of course aware of this plan. They must have received a promise from Israel that the expansion would be limited to eastern Anatolia, so they do not immediately switch to defense mode. Or, he may be waiting for the establishment of a greater Israeli empire, and in doing so, he may want to understand which side Turkey really stands on. Putin is a smart man, he does not fall into traps easily. Don't pay attention to the fact that states love and curse each other at the same time. All of these are staged fights. Decisions are made by grand councils behind closed doors. Only a very small portion of these secret decisions are shared with politicians. Not a single word of this information is mentioned to ordinary people. All of this is implemented while we are asleep. While we are eating each other up with daily bread, the men are eagerly waiting for the time when they will reach their promised land. They are advancing step by step without letting anyone know. They always have plans, B and C. If these plans don't work, they can make up an excuse and set the world on fire. For example, they can implement the idea of reducing the world population to 500 million, as Georgia wrote in her columns. Whether you are a member of NATO, the United Nations, the European Union or the Arab League does not scare them, because they are the ones who allow these front unions to be established. As a result, the world is ready for chaos at any moment. Many rich businessmen and rich leaders have already started buying safe havens. The seed boxes are full to the brim. You cannot predict what kind of surprise the Jews who rule the world have in store for the people of the world. It does not matter to them whose side the countries are on. The Jewish countries that have weapons of mass destruction will definitely use these weapons, and in the new golden age, the center of the new world will be the greater Israeli empire. They will give a status in the new world order to political leaders who have become rich with the financial support provided to them and the ill-gotten gains they have made, and as always, the slaves who are harvested will be as ordinary people. While they are calculating the new kingdoms and the lion's share that will fall to them in the new world golden age, we will be calculating how we can survive this chaos. The gods you call upon will not hear your voice, because they created the gods you think you worship. It's too late for you to understand this. The collapse is unstoppable. If they don't get what they want somehow, they could turn the world into a bloodbath. They've done this many times before, I've explained it all in my other videos. I don't think so though. I hope you have a Skyguard and he is on our side, and I hope he helps us humans.